and we're live. Unlocking cash in today's environment is a hot topic, guys. And we've got some guests. Michael, do you want to introduce?
Yes, I will. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, and as Mark said, talking about cash, getting cash, small businesses, renters out there. So we thought there's a lot of crazy information out there and mixed messages. So I really wanted to offer a channel where we can sort of cover what's happening out there. And we've got Sam and Jackson on. Sam, do you just want to give a brief intro of what you do and where you both work so people can get in contact with you as well?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So Jackson and myself co-founded Auris Financial a few years ago. We're basically a financial services firm helping out SME business owners. So with everything that's going on at the moment, SME business owners have been really hard hit by the coronavirus. So we just wanted to jump on today and shed a little bit of light about everything that's going on and what business owners can do to get through this really difficult time.
Beautiful.
And SMEs, small and medium
businesses. That's
and businesses. What's E stand for?
Enterprise.
E. Okay. And you guys are in Northern Beaches as well, like us.
Yeah, we are. Right. We're neighbours over in Brookvale.
Well, it's basically where a lot of one of the biggest areas affected. Like Brookvale employs 15,000 people on the Northern Beaches. It's like the economic hub. It's crazy. Jackson, and what's your role?
Yeah, so I'm Jackson. I'm also known as the Wealth Mentor. I'm a wealth educator and business strategist. So I primarily work with our business clients to help them craft a strategy that helps them get cashed up, remove cash flow bottlenecks, and turn their business profits into personal wealth. So we're flat out at the moment trying to help a lot of our business clients pivot. As we know, there's a lot of business models who've been kind of pretty linear in terms of they've done just one thing. They've had a very typical delivery model, like your fitness businesses. They have had to have people coming into the studio. You've got cafes and hospitality businesses that have been hugely impacted. Tourism businesses with all of the travel bans. So it's about, okay, how can we take these business owners who have this phenomenal intellectual property and developed all of this great experience, and then how can we just help them create new delivery models that allow them to keep their head above water and trade through this?
And multiple income. I think a big one I'm hearing there is a lot of people who are only ever relied on one income source. It's pretty dangerous. Same as when you work to have a couple of incomes, but also in a business model.
100%.
So Mark, I think let's think of probably the commercial side, and we'll do residential. But if I'm a business owner out there, I've got a cafe, and basically I've had to shut down or at least minimize the services I offer, which has now reduced my trade by 90%. What options are out there? What policies have been spoken? And can we sort of role play if I was a business owner? What would I be doing now?
Yeah, good question. Well, why don't I'll jump into a couple of the finance related things, and then Jacko, if you want to pick up on the some of the other aspects that are going on at the moment, because there's just so much, guys. Do you know what I mean? There's just so many different things. So I guess for small businesses today that want to try save themselves, for me, the main thing to do would be to freeze the existing lending. All right, so let's say you've got your typical gym owner or cafe owner. They've probably got a home loan. They've probably got a commercial loan on their premises. They've probably got a couple of car loans, maybe some equipment finance, right? So it's a lot of outgoings every single month. And if you're not producing revenue, you run into trouble pretty quickly. So really the simplest and the fastest thing to do would be to take advantage of the 6-month repayment holiday that nearly every single lender in the country is now offering. The means testing is pretty, it's pretty low. Do you know what I mean? It's most people who are applying for it are getting it. And it applies to everything. It applies to the home loan. It applies to the commercial loan. It applies to all the asset finance and business loans, all those
finance,
things.
Car, sort of, okay.
Anything, mate.
Everything
At all. And it's, look, the way it's working is you're still accruing interest, right? So it's not free money, but the interest is building up, capitalized into the loan, and then your repayments over the remaining loan term will go up, but they'll go up by a nominal amount. Do you know what I mean? By not a great deal. And what people have to understand is this is here. This is a lifeline to get you through what's going to be a very difficult 6 months for some businesses. Do you know what I mean? And if that's, if it gets them over the line, if it gets them back to trading, at the end of the year, then that's something that people can do very quickly, very easily, and that's probably the best lifeline available at the moment.
Because would you probably an observation, would we a lot of people live week to week, but would you say a lot of businesses are month to month as well?
Oh, 100%, mate.
Absolutely.
Huge.
So when they're not getting any trade, it's a big thing to just stop the flow of outgoings as well through that. And I think the big thing you said then, it's not free money. A lot of people are thinking these silver bags of cash. It's not free. So if you don't need it, or you don't go down that path where people are just trying to potentially milk the system, because you're right, it's not free for them.
And one question, Sam. It sounds scary when you say that you're going to capitalise the interest through the loan, but the one thing that I then thought about then was it's an all-time low interest that you're capitalising over the loan. So it's actually not that hard hitting, because if we're a 10% interest environment, and then you're not charging the interest for 6 months, and then you're charging it later, that's a very different scenario to a 2 or 3% interest, capitalising over the loan.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And it's, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. The cost, the actual expense is not that high. And if it saves your business, it's probably worth every dollar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because cash flow is what's killing people at the moment. Not so much the interest cost, but the overall repayment, I think, is what's hurting people. And the other thing that's really getting a lot of attention at the moment, which is not as black and white, which is actually still a very grey area, is this $250,000 government-backed business loan, where the government, guarantors 50% of the facility. So,
what does that mean? Sorry, they guarantee.
Yeah, so they're going guarantor for people, right? So they're guaranteeing the money for the bank for up to $250,000, 50%.
Yep.
And basically what that's doing, it's allowed the banks to get a little bit more lenient with their assessment policy and a little bit sharper with their pricing. So instead of paying maybe an 11% interest rate on an unsecured business loan, they might sell it at a 7% interest rate. And it's I'll go into the details in the loan, but the first thing I wanted to cover off is that most banks currently do not actually have a product to serve this loan with.
And this loan was announced, I think it was 7 days ago, by the Prime Minister. Just so we're on, this was one of the incentives, and within one of the big packages was a $250,000 loan pass. But as you're saying, there is no product, so that takes.
They didn't consult the banks. They just basically said, "Yeah, guys, this is what we're doing. Banks, go sort it out."
Yeah, figure it out yourself.
It sounded good when he said it.
Yeah,
he's a good marketer.
Sounded amazing. Sounded amazing.
He must be a real estate agent.
Because surely, unless you've consulted with the banks, how are you going to get that loan if they're going on old assessments? They want to see you turn it. How do you go to a bank going, "My business is shut. Can I have 250 grand?"
Correct.
Exactly.
So they're not going to get the money. They're not going to get the money. And there's a couple of banks out there that have got a product to market. Like CBA's got a product. Westpac's got a product, but Westpac only want to sort of take on their existing private, banking clients, which doesn't help 99% of Australians. ANZ hasn't released anything yet. None of the smaller guys have come out with anything. The big bugbear that I have with this is that unsecured business loans at the best of times are difficult to secure. Do you know what I mean? The banks go through it with a fine-tooth comb, because it's not like a property where they have security over something. They don't. You know what I mean? It's a cash. Correct. Or even a car loan, they can take the car back. If you're doing an unsecured lend for $250,000 and the business goes belly up, and that business doesn't have any asset value, then the bank's screwed, basically. So it's the assessment policies are still in place, and there's old-fashioned standard business banking assessment models, which makes it long time to get approved, and it makes it slow. And some people, as you said, rightfully, they're not going to get approved. They're not going to get this money. Yeah. So we're really pushing at the moment to get like fintech lenders and stuff like that involved. Guys who are new to the space, they move quickly, they assess fast, they've got looser assessment policies, because these businesses, if they're going for this facility, if they're trying to get money in the bank to tide them over, they don't need it in 3 months' time. The doors will be shut by then. They need it now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And here's the thing, guys, it's not the silver bullet that all businesses are looking for. And I think what businesses need to realize is that, unfortunately, and it's the harsh reality, the government isn't going to bail you out.
Yeah.
The incentives that and the stimulus that they've created is to relieve some of the pain. But the reality is you're on your own. And I think you need to have a plan A and a plan B. So all of the stimulus incentives, the unsecured loans are a part of your plan B. It's to take the sting out of what's happening here. And it's not a pretty situation. However, you need to make sure you've got your own plan A to make sure that you can actually get through this, or you need to make some tough decisions around the longevity of your business. And if you're just kicking the tin down the road, it might end up even worse.
Yeah, because you don't want to take out a 250 grand loan if your plan won't even survive that. If you keep doing what you're doing,
Exactly.
So that sounds like it's definitely not a silver bullet, and it may not really be anything or ever used, because it sounds like it may be a bit slow.
Look, and it's important to look at it.
No free rides. There's
No, mate.
free ride, is there?
Nah, you still really need to think for yourself. And I don't think anyone's coming to save you here. Do you know what I mean? I think everyone needs to do what's in their best interest to get through, and this is going to be a tough time for businesses. It just is.
So, okay, what other facilities are out there if they don't want to get credit, or is it really tap into your savings? What would you what are you recommending? Because if there's nothing from the government, it's really take on more debt to get through, or adapt your business so you can operate now. Is probably the biggest thing, because
that's a big one. We developed a 7-point recession-proof action plan. So, guys, if you're watching this and you want a copy, just feel free to let us know, and we'll send you the link to download it. And it's really about consolidation, and like what you said before, Michael, is playing the long game, right? Because we've got to realize that this thing's not going to blow over. This isn't a blizzard. This is a winter.
Yep.
We've got to prepare that this is going to take at least the next 3 to 6 months for this whole virus thing to subside. And then we've probably got an 18 to 24 month economic recovery. So we've got to make sure that we've got the right strategy in place. So the first thing, it all comes down to cash flow. And the problem is that we've just come off one of the biggest bull runs that we've had in history. And if your business was shaky before, then unfortunately this might be the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
We've seen a few businesses.
A tough 12 months, like doing a lot of commercial property, speaking to a lot of business owners. It's been tough. And that's across all sectors.
Yeah.
So when people, I think what a lot of the public, they're thinking, well, why, like their business, it's a bad 2 weeks. It's not, it's been a bad 12, 18 months for starters. So this is not like a lot of businesses, you have your little savings and it's about get through 2 weeks. It's not, it's probably been, some businesses have been probably on a very strong decline for 18 months.
Yeah.
They're now in the coffin.
And if you're in that situation, I know it's hard because as business owners ourselves, we love our business. Like there's so much passion about our business, and it's a big hit to the ego. But I think you really need to ask yourself, can you trade through this thing? And if not, there are facilities and strategies in place where you can get out relatively scot-free and live to fight another day.
Yep.
Now that's not
that's a really good point. The tolerance threshold of canning the business is good at the moment. So it's a great excuse if you've been considering the last 5 years to wrap it up. Now is a brilliant time to wrap it up without getting whacked over the knuckles.
Exactly right, mate. Because the ATO and the regulators are going to have their hands full, and I think that you're going to have less implications associated with doing that now than ever. So we've got to make that call. If you can trade through, and the cornerstone of that's going to be understanding your cash flow.
Yeah.
If you've got the right war chest, meaning that you've got the cash to be able to see yourself through, you've gone and you've done everything you possibly can to negotiate. And look, I've seen a lot of people going out there and they're starting to negotiate with the wrong things first. Like look at the biggest things first with the creditors that you've got that essentially have the deepest pockets, right? Like for example, negotiate with your bank before you start negotiating with your landlord.
Yeah.
Because you've got to realize, like, your landlord's a person too. Like, maybe they're in a tough situation. And of course, like, rent's a big expense. However, there's a lot of other things that you can negotiate to try and get through this.
Yeah.
And make sure that you've got the right plan.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. It's
So,
because I think the first thing you do as a business owner is you look at your expenditure, and you probably go look at the top line, the highest cost, second highest cost, third highest cost, and you work down that way. Whereas sometimes that could be just beating your head against the wall. People with the deepest pockets, even like the ATO tax.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of these stimuluses are going to be great.
Yeah, your PYAG, you just look at all that, and especially, good point, if it's your banks and your governments, they're probably a bit negotiable at the moment to push it forward.
Definitely.
I saw a lot of things came out as benefits to keep spending. Are you familiar with that? I saw like if you're paying, I don't know, there was a lot of policies which relied on you spending. If I'm a business owner and I want to get the benefit, what's the benefits if I have cash and where would I spend it? What's the benefits at the moment that you guys saw?
Yeah, so in terms of the stimulus, the biggest ones, obviously, if you're a trade business, that in the first round of stimulus that was announced, is the government's going to cover 50% of any of your apprentices, as long as they've been on the books before the stimulus was announced. It'll be backdated to 1 January, and essentially they'll pay about $7,000 a quarter per apprentice that you have. It's about 50%. So, and that'll be paid up till September. I think they may extend some of these things depending on how long this thing hangs around. The other one was the instant asset write-off that was increased to 150,000. So once again, don't be spending just in order to get these incentives. If you were going to spend anyway, so if you're a trade business, you're looking to get new equipment, you need to turn over your vehicles, which if your cash flow's shot and you're looking for opportunities to maximize your cash flow, maybe that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're going to get the added benefits of being able to maximize those depreciation benefits immediately. And then when we talk about the other typical businesses, the 100K cash relief for PAYG was essentially meaning that you could essentially either be refunded if you already paid it from January all the way up to September quarter. Yeah. The problem is most business owners have been using the ATO as a bank. And the reality is many business owners are on payment plans. So many businesses we've seen won't actually see $1 of that incentive because that money will be going to pay off their tax debt, which is a good thing. Take some of that pressure off for the future, but it's not going to be
it's almost another,
not going to help them out.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Jackson, I've got a question.
Sure.
Have I got you midstream, or can I ask?
No, please, fire away.
Okay. What's the from obviously you guys do advice, and you guys do financial advice, and you guys do loans, great combo, and we're talking about accessing that and what people and today, which has been great. What's without naming a business, what's the I like the word that you use, saying pivot, and companies that have been a hit, and what company has, without any names, what company, for example, have you seen that's been a great operator, that's either accessed cash, how they did it, changed their business model slightly, pivoted, and now is actually doing really well, or surviving, whatever. But what's a great example that you've seen in the last 4 to 8 weeks that you're proud of, that you can share with people to give some inspiration to?
Yeah, I've got a great example, Samo. So we've got a client that runs a gym. It's a strength. They've got two businesses actually. It's a strength gym, and it's also a boot camp. Now, with all of our clients, we go through a regular exercise of doing a SWOT analysis, which is a really simple tool, understanding your internal strengths and weaknesses and your external opportunities and threats. And as soon as we started to see this thing happen offshore, we knew that this was going to come, and we needed to make sure that we buffered against the threats. And then we started looking to leverage the opportunities. And the opportunity was that most fitness businesses have an amazing community. It's why people go to the gym, right? It's because you don't have that intrinsic motivation to get up in the morning and go run around the block.
Yeah.
So we realized that the writing was on the wall. and we started shifting to online before most other businesses saw that was going to be the next thing. So we had a few weeks ahead of the lockdowns and the limitation of groups getting together to be able to launch tests and kind of go through the teething pains of getting that online. And it was received fantastic. We were talking about it yesterday, and it's like, it's not professional. Like the dog's barking in the background, the little toddlers playing with the laptop and carrying on. However, that's part of the community. Yeah. Now, he's been hammered. He's definitely been hammered. There's no one that's immune to this thing. However, we went through that process and we pivoted and we consolidated. We cut as many costs as we possibly could. We maximized the entitlements, and he's going to be able to trade through it.
What exactly? So what did that online look like? What that was that done by Zoom in people's home, or how?
Everything was on Zoom. So we did basically three things. We replicated the timetable exactly the same as people going into the studio on Zoom. So it felt the same. Yep. The next thing we did is we created a quarantine meal plan. So we just kind of a little bit tongue in cheek. You're going to be stuck at home. You're probably stressed. You're going to be maybe overindulging in the Doritos and the dip or whatever. So how about we have a meal plan to make sure we keep you on track? And then how do we replicate the accountability? So in a Facebook group, we got people to post their goals and intentions for the week. And then the team was basically just continuing to follow up to make sure that they did what they were supposed to do.
Cool.
Yeah. And I had a question. That's great. Also, I think the closing down the business could be, I think that's a hard truth a lot of people may look at. Because let's face it, by the sounds of it, let's say I'm a personal trainer out there and you're normally doing face-to-face and you haven't done that adapting, there's really nothing out there. If you're not turning up, what about even just the $750 a week, the job keepsake? Can you, if you're a sole trader, can you get that for yourself?
You can.
Do you have any support?
Yes, you can. So I'd be saying go down the route of the job keeper. So it's $750 a week. Essentially, it's there to keep your business functioning and give you enough to be able to kind of get through this thing. And look, I know it's not a huge amount of money, but when we've given the option to consolidate and essentially cut out some of the luxuries in life and maybe eat a little bit of cat food for dinner for a little while, then you'll get through it. And then it's a matter of just playing that long game, right? Like what I've seen is there's typically two types of people at the moment. There's individuals who are kind of having a bit of a pity party. And I understand it's a shit time. It really is. However, you can feel sorry for yourself and essentially do nothing and be a kind of a victim of this situation, or you can push your way through this and you can be a thought leader, you can inspire others, and you can start laying the foundations for when the tides turn, because the tides will turn. And my forecast is there's going to be a decade of unprecedented growth off the back of this. So if you stay in contact with your clients, you do Facebook Lives like you guys, and you talk about what's going to happen once life resumes again, then all of those clients are going to come back plus some.
Yeah, I'm really strongly opinionated on this, right? So if you do your history, around this, the biggest economic growth has always come off the back of the deepest recessions and the deepest depressions. So think world wars, think the 1920s recession. That's when the biggest growth comes off the back of it. If you look at, something in our lifetime, the GFC, 07, 08, 09, really, like looking back now in the environment that we're in and looking back since 2009, we've had the cruisiest 10 years ever. Everything's gone up. Businesses are doing better, property's going through the roof, stock markets are at all-time highs. Like it's been unmatched economic prosperity for the past 10 years. And this is going to be shit. But off the back of this, there's no reason to expect, history teaches us that we'll see another 10 or 15 years of unmatched economic growth. So prepare now to take advantage of what that's going to be. Do you know what I mean?
So what I'm hearing is basically, if you don't want to access credit, even as a sole trader, you can get your 750 JobKeeper and make that work. And be realistic. That's what the offer is. So you got to make how you work out your rental payments and everything. the biggest thing I think they said is stopping the repayments, pausing all that because you got 750. And if it can't work and you're not willing to adapt your business, then it may look at maybe shut the doors and do something else at the moment. So, because I think that's right. I think a lot of people were just hoping for this silver bullet or handout. I think we've already said it a couple of times that with the amount of money going out, you'll have land tax, strata, and a corona levy like on everything soon. So I think people have got to probably be quite honest with themselves and analyze their business. What else are you seeing out there? Any final questions, Mark?
Look, I think to the small, we've entertained a lot of small business stuff today,
Yep.
which is a lot of Australians. But to the tenant who has lost his job, or she has lost her job, or they have lost their job, and they feel like, because mental health's a really big thing at the moment, according to the government, and that sort of took me by surprise how much they addressed and have invested in that. So, to the guys that are looking up the cliff of they've just lost their jobs, and they don't have money in the bank, what are like a couple of basic moves?
Yeah, well, there's a few things that they can consider. And look, I think the first thing, I'm obviously not a mental health expert, but I think what's important here is that even though we've got this social distancing, it doesn't mean that we should be disconnected. And I think that's the biggest problem here, right? People feel disconnected. So share your stories. Like, even if it's a story where you're in a bad spot, share it. And I'm sure people in your community, in your family, in your circle are going to support you. At the end of the day, rising tides lift all ships. So don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think when it comes to finance, no one will ever take away your ability to go out there and fight to earn an income.
Yeah.
So you need to work out, face the numbers, maybe pull your head out of the sand if you're a little bit down in the dumps, and do something about it. So you've got money, you've got access to Centrelink in the job seeker allowance. You've got access to superannuation, which is a last resort. And we did a study on this because I think too many people are trigger happy, and the government's painted this as being a scot-free way to get access to money. But we worked out for a 25-year-old pulling out $10,000 from their super, it's equivalent to losing $300,000 by the age of 65. So I would do that as a last resort.
Wow.
Just to cap on that again, one of the policies brought in is you can access your superannuation 10 grand this financial year and 10 grand financial year.
After tax money, yeah.
After tax, but play the long game, because
Correct.
those figures, again, you take out 10 grand now, look at yourself in the mirror and think you're 65. What's it costing you? Really?
300,000.
Crazy.
So I would do that as the last thing that you possibly choose to do.
And there's nothing saying you can't work for free. Like I think this isolation and this staying at home and I can't get a job. Well, you know, I get the can't get a job thing, but it doesn't stop you from walking into an essential service and saying, look, I'm willing to turn up and to do what I have to do to be part of the community, you know, for a week or two. Do you know what I mean? Just to get yourself out of the house, and you're in an 100%. Essential service.
And not to feel sorry for yourself. I think you nailed that.
Be with people.
You may have lost your job, but it's still up to you how hard you push and work and get through. Like, there's a lot of, you hear stories of how people start working for someone, and a lot of the time it goes, I'll work for you for free, give me an opportunity, and I'll work my ass off. Now that's more relevant now than ever. A lot of people lost their jobs. They can go anywhere and just work for free and get the opportunity. Obviously not forever, but this is the time. You've got nothing to lose. You've already lost your job, but you said it perfectly. No one's taken away your ability to work hard and hustle and just smash it. So that's a big one.
Absolutely.
What else? Okay.
What about takeouts from today?
So the takeouts, in my view, the pause the repayments is one, and do a list of your biggest expenses. Everyone, including your ATO, the tax, all these bills. See what you can negotiate as well.
That was my takeout from today. It's not necessarily the biggest expenses. It's who's got the deepest pockets to go and negotiate with. So people like banks, governments, sort of starts to push landlords down the list a little bit more. But you sort of think landlords straight away, but not the case.
Yeah, they're number 3, mate. They're not number 1. Look, a lot of these landlords are probably running their own business or have their own careers that they might be struggling with at the moment, have got debt on these properties. They got their own obligations. Do you know what I mean? And I know the landlord is in the media sometimes portrayed as this rich supervillain, but it's not the case. It's everyday mums and dads and everyday business owners who are just trying to get ahead themselves for them and their family. They don't have unlimited supply of money to absorb the loss of rental income.
What's your advice to landlords at the moment who you may be talking about their business, but they got a property? What can they do?
Yeah, so they're the same. The mortgage freeze would be the first thing. Do you know what I mean? That's the very, very fast and very low barrier to entry to get that done. So that's what I'd be doing straight away.
Your repayments, but interest still accruing, but you can have. It's up to 3 months, 6 months, depending on the bank.
6
months. 6 months, yeah. So some banks are giving you just 6 months off the bat. Some banks are giving you 3 months with an opportunity to review again at 3 months for another 3. But assume 6 months in total. Do you know what I mean? So
here's the other thing, guys. I would be proactive. If you're a landlord, don't wait for your tenant or your real estate agent to call you and say, hey, look, your tenant's in stress. Be proactive. Like this is a people-to-people business, right? And if you are proactive and have a conversation and say, look, call out the elephant in the room. We understand that there's lots of people in pain. Let's preemptively create a bit of an action plan of how we can get through this together. So talk about getting your tenant to do a budget. Talk about getting your tenant to look at what options they've got in place. I'm sure if you do that preemptively, and then if shit does hit the fan, then you both are going to be in a much better situation from working together. Like, I think many people took the PM's address the wrong way of saying, hey, tenants and landlords, just sort it out for yourself. No, I think the way to go about it is have a conversation and work out how you're going to get through this together.
Yeah.
Because you are in this together.
It's that we did the same thing. We sort of sat back after the announcement and sort of scratched our head and go, "That's not what I was thinking." But now, like genius. Like there's so many.
Guys, I'm going through the car wash. Just
multitasking, mate. I love that.
Supporting local business, mate. You're very good. Very good.
Yeah, that's a brush.
Yeah.
But a big thing. I love the word you used today a lot, which was freeze. Yeah. Freeze. It has a Z and an E on the end.
What I want to
there's nothing free, guys. There's
Correct.
nothing free. It's a freeze. So whether it's a mortgage, whether it's a loan from the government loan, whether it's a whatever it is, there's a Z and an E on the end. It's not free. So I've seen it seems like that's just really, really the part that I'm missing in a lot of it, and a lot of people are missing in a lot of it. There's nothing for free here.
No. One thing, well said. I want to ask probably one more question before closing off. If you're a landlord and your tenants come to you, what do you want to see as a landlord before you even consider reducing the rent or doing a deal? Like, do you want to see that they've gone to Centrelink? Do you want to see that their turnover has gone? Like, what's a bit of due diligence that you would do as a landlord personally, or what you would advise? Like, what do you want your tenant to come to you with? To come to a collaboration. Where we use the word on another one. It's like a collaboration between tenant and owner to come to something that works. But you don't just want to walk into a room and say, I want less rent, and the owner and the tenant and the landlord. There's no rule book here. So what would you be advising landlords to go, okay, if you're going to meet, and your agents to meet with your tenant, I would want to see that they've at least done this or these positions before even considering, because the Prime Minister made it clear, rent's still due unless something's come up, unless you've negotiated something else. So before you, what would you consider? Or what would you want to see before you consider anything, if you consider?
Yeah, look, I think for employees who have who've lost their job.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
We're in.
I think for employees who've lost their job, or even business owners who are renting, I think for business owners who have a commercial lease, who are leasing off a landlord, I think they would be able to negotiate some sort of commercial terms with that landlord, because we know that the commercial tenancy, you know better than anyone, Michael, they can be, long times between drinks if you lose a tenant. And so they should be able to come to some sort of amicable decision where perhaps there's lowered rent for a period of time. So the landlord continues to collect rent, the business doesn't go under, and they can work that numbers out between themselves. I think for residential landlords, it's probably a little bit more difficult because you're not talking sort of commercial terms. You're talking someone's home where they live and when their family lives. I think if an employee has lost their job, you want to make sure that they're taking those benefits, those coronavirus benefits that the government's put out. With this new job keeper thing that was announced very recently, you want to see if PAYG has lost their job, that they go back to the employer. Can they go back on the books and get paid this job keeper? Do you know what I mean? Instead of completely losing their job altogether, is a good idea. And then if that's the case and their income's dropped considerably, then there could be some sort of, once those options have been extinguished, some sort of negotiation between landlord and tenant on perhaps reduced rent or something like that, where they can both get through. Where the worst case scenario would be the tenant going, I'm not paying any rent, and the landlord not receiving any rent. That puts both of them in trouble. Do you know what I mean? Because it's the second that this ban on kicking tenants out is gone, then that tenant's going to get kicked out. Do you know what I mean? So they both lose.
And you don't have a debt, right? Mark said it's not free.
Yeah.
All right, gents.
Perfect. Well, Lisa,
Thank you very much.
We need you on weekly. Correct. Yeah, lots of comments, lots of viewers. So really appreciate the time you guys have taken out to do this and clear up what's out there. And what I'll do, I'll put your contact details in the comments. So if anyone needs to reach out, they can just shoot you a DM.
Yeah, we've got some
Well
great
done,
resources, guys. Some planning tools to help you get through this. So the recession-proof action plan. We've got some great tools to help you crunch your numbers. So if you want to get access to those, feel free to reach out, and happy to have a chat.
You guys are legends.
Good
Thanks,
to chat to you
fellas.
guys. Take care.
Take care.
Hopefully we helped everyone out there. Cheers, guys.
See ya.
Bye.